become. Because history isn't just made, it's honored, it's recorded, and it's passed forward. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. Welcome to Wealth Building Wednesdays, where we center Black, women, and BIPOC-owned businesses, highlight opportunities and initiatives for underrepresented entrepreneurs, and center socially innovative enterprises, building generational prosperity, fostering real networking, and recycling Black dollars. It's Wealth Building Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580.
It sure is, and it looks like we have a real member of our KBLA delegation in the building today. He's a management consultant, a business instructor, got over 25 years of experience in coaching, advising, and implementing change for business organizations so that they can have better overall performance and productivity. He's also senior business advisor with the Small Business Development Center, which is the consulting arm of the SBA. He's developed an entrepreneurial training program for a community education department at LA City College, and much, much more. Gerry Anderson, welcome.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, Dominique. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think we put a lot of time into spotlighting businesses, small businesses, BIPOC-owned, socially innovative ones. Sometimes we don't put enough time into talking about our own development as entrepreneurs, our own skills as business owners and architects.
Absolutely. One of the things that I specialize in is capacity building and helping entrepreneurs understand what their skills are, what their strengths are, and where they need to develop themselves so that they can become that complete entrepreneur, that holistic management professional. The business of the business is something that eludes a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Do you think, it's interesting because we have this big wealth gap between white community and black community, or
Amen.
Black community and others. And I always wonder if it's because we don't have that legacy in our families. We're not coming from a family that had money and managed money. Obviously, they don't teach that in school. So I figure people are getting it at home. But on the other hand, black businesses are thriving, or at least proliferating, right? We have a disproportionate number of businesses.
That's correct.
So how do you explain that kind of irony?
Well, us being able to overcome whatever they throw at us. In simple terms, there are a lot of external forces that we as a community have to deal with, and we navigate those to the point where we thrive. We still survive. We still are able to overcome those things that they throw at us, and I think that's just programmed in our DNA. Maybe I don't want to say that, but overcoming is what we do.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it. It's in our DNA.
Fair enough.
So, when you talk about the business of the business,
Mm-hmm.
you are referring to a set of skills. What are those?
We're talking about not so much as a set of skills, but a set of functions. We're talking about the sales and marketing function. We're talking about the finance and administration function. We're talking about the general management function. People tend to know their expertise, but those peripheral managerial issues tend to, let me put it this way. Most businesses that start go out of business in the first year. Of those that make it
First year.
I
thought it was first 5. Oh, that's great. In 1 year.
Most businesses don't make it out the first year. Of those that make it out of the first year, most fail in the second year. And so most don't even get to 5 years.
Okay.
So it is.
So the clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking, and unfortunately, the clock is ticking with regards to what entrepreneurs don't know. the back office stuff, the sales and marketing, the general administration, the finance, the budgeting.
I mean, you're looking at a person.
I look at them all day.
You're looking at a person that did, started her own business without knowing jack.
Absolutely.
I know the business that I was, production. I know that, but I didn't know, and I really don't think I have the skill level that I should have, or set of, what did you call it? You set of functions.
Set of functions.
But what I do know is that I will go and hire someone to do it.
Fair enough.
I can't do it.
And that, Dominique, is a very important point. Too many times we try and struggle with those things that we don't know how to do, and we end up messing them up or making them worse. Whereas if we took the time to just find the person to do it, that would then give us that level of expertise, but then allow us to continue to do the things that we do best and do the things that actually generate wealth for the company.
Yeah, this is a conversation I have had a number of times with my friend, attorney Zoran Basic, about how, and he's not black, but he's talking from his function of dealing with businesses across the board, that people don't hire professionals. And then when I look at us, we'll hire a professional to, fade up our sides, or, make sure our weave is tight. We'll hire a professional for that, but for some reason we don't want to spend money on lawyers, accountants, making a business plan.
We like to spend money on consumer stuff. We don't like to spend money on wealth generating stuff.
I see.
And accessing that level of expertise, that is wealth building stuff. And we have a natural aversion or leaning toward consumerism and things that give us the immediate gratification and the immediate satisfaction of the purchase here and now without thinking of the long term.
I'm sure there's some epigenetic reason for that. Like maybe we thought there would be no long term, but whatever, that's something we need to get over. So what do you see as the number one resource that most business owners overlook?
Themselves.
What do you mean by that?
They're not knowing what they're able to do, thinking that they're unable to do it simply because they haven't done it before. The experience that you had with starting a business, you said you didn't know jack with starting a business, but the learning curve that you would have experienced during that then positions you to better run the business later on. And so understanding that you don't have to know everything, you just have to be paying attention enough to learn and continually get better as you go. Business entrepreneurship is a continuous improvement endeavor. The things that you are doing in the first year, you probably won't do it in the third year if you make it that far, because you will have learned how to do it better. In the first year, it's I don't want to say an experiment, but you don't know what you don't know about your business. Okay, fair.
I never even thought about marketing. I was just like, oh, I do this, and then people will want it.
Absolutely.
And there's no marketing budget, no plan, no concept.
Absolutely. Well, to piggyback on that, sometimes we don't express our value in terms that make sense to others. We don't spend enough time on getting into the head of our customers, but rather doing what makes us feel good.
Right.
And offering the product or the service that makes us feel good, as opposed to that which is responsive to the needs of your client.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't for two gentlemen named Brown, I think my business would have failed.
J. Anthony Brown and Jim Brown.
Yep.
Okay, I listen. I'm part of the KBLA delegation.
I know you are, Mr. Anderson. Those were my first two clients, and I know they just did it because they want to support a black woman who was out of a job.
And that
blessings to them both.
And that is something, because we are in this together, and we should want to help each other whenever possible. But that in and of itself would not be enough, because
it's not a marketing plan.
As most entrepreneurs find out, their customer base will have to extend beyond their friends and family.
Yeah. And so, the SBA is something I think we don't even consider. Most black-owned businesses, small businesses, we think that's for the big dogs.
Fair enough. The SBA has programs designed to help underserved entrepreneurs, and I want to put all of that within the context of the current administration and the DEI and all that stuff. The SBA was purposefully and intentionally serving the underserved. Now, the SBA doesn't make loans, but they just establish loan guarantee programs. And so what that does is that reduces the risk to banks that will loan. If an SBA, you go to a bank and you apply for a loan, if they turn you down, you can then go to the SBA for a loan guarantee, and the SBA steps in as what acts as a cosigner. So the bank is really not at risk because the federal government is cosigning your loan. And that is something that is available to everyone.
And there's also some programs like counseling for businesses and education, right?
Well, that's through the SBDC.
I see.
Okay, and the SBDC is the consulting arm, the technical assistance arm of the SBA. We provide training, we provide one-on-one counseling and technical assistance, and we even we're running the LA County Entrepreneurship. Oh, Catherine is gonna kill me.
Well,
EMI. Do you know, does EMI mean the Economic Mobility Initiative through the LA County?
What is that?
That is a program put on by the LA County to bridge the wealth gap, to help individuals that are quote unquote underserved, and to give them access to resources and access to capital to help them grow and help them compete.
Assuming that there's probably, because we have listeners, we have delegates all over the country,
Amen.
that there's probably similar programs in other markets.
California tends to lead the way, and what
Yes,
what is
we
available
do,
what is
family.
available here eventually catches on.
Okay.
But it might not necessarily, everything might not necessarily be available everywhere all at once.
Yeah. We're talking with Gerry Anderson on our Wealth Building Wednesday segment. When we come forward, I want to talk about ways that people can access this knowledge and information on a day-to-day basis, and some sort of ABCs too that you would encourage folks to do, whether they're thinking of starting a business or whether they're already well over a decade in.
Fair enough.
And still trying to get those business practices in alignment. I'm Dominique DiPrima. It's the Wealth Building Wednesday on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
You really about to do it?
40 acres and a mule. This is bigger than the music.
You really about to do it?
Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. With so many shows on our station weekdays and weekends, it's hard for me to keep track of all the guests who are actually in studio on any given day. I wish I'd known in advance that LADA Nathan Hochman was coming in studio for a recent interview. Had I known, I would have loved to have personally greeted him and then asked him why LA City Council member Karen Price is being criminally prosecuted for allegations of misconduct similar to the conflict of interest violations for which former City Council member Kevin De Leon is only being fined. What's that about, Mr. DA? In fairness to Mr. Hochman, it was former DA George Gascon who actually filed felony charges against Councilman Price. I opined then on how these criminal charges against Price did not pass the smell test. I was concerned then that this was yet another wayward prosecution of a high-profile black elected, not to mention a waste of taxpayer money. I am even more convinced now that this is a hot mess. To be clear, neither you or I want a bunch of self-serving, greedy, conflict of interest criminals managing the people's business inside LA City Hall. But we also don't want selective or targeted prosecution of black politicians. We've seen that movie before, and we don't need a sequel. It's hard to watch Kevin De Leon get away with paying an $18,000 fine for repeated ethics violations, what he calls an oversight, and at the same time, watch the DA's office continue its criminal prosecution of Karen Price for issues allegedly involving his wife's clients. Motions, I might add, that were passed unanimously by the LA City Councilman. What are you saying, Tavis? I'm glad you asked. D.A. Hochman did not start this inquisition, but he certainly has the power to stop it. I have said it before, and I will say it again. Fundamental fairness. In the absence of fundamental fairness, we experience a cascade of deteriorating conditions. The erosion of trust, the weakening of social cohesion, alienation, marginalization, the legitimacy of authority diminishes, cynicism and disengagement grow, and ultimately, people abandon civic participation altogether. Fundamental fairness, Mr. Hochman, that's all we ask. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with Gerry Anderson on our Wealth Building Wednesday segment. He's a management consultant and business instructor. You also have a book. It's called Look Before You Leap, How to Analyze and Plan Your Business Idea. And you can get that. You got to email him, ganderson@crdcla.org. Is that right?
That is correct.
ganderson@crdcla.org. This book is meant to help those who have not yet started their business, correct?
That is correct. It's meant to help ideas get off the couch.
Okay, well, maybe I need to read it. What are some of the mistakes that we make when we're trying to get our ideas off the couch that you're addressing in this particular book?
Not so much as mistakes, but underappreciation of what it would take to take that idea and turn it into a sustainable business venture. There's several different wheels within the wheels that take place in business management, and they're often not taught in school, not understood up front, and so there's just a general underappreciation and no purposeful, deliberate attempt to get access to expertise. We tend to think that we can handle it. We'll make it up as we go. We've got enough. We'll think about it and put it all together, and we don't need to access that higher level of information. We tend to want to do it ourselves quite a bit.
And so, even in the planning process, we should, in your opinion, we should have consultants. We should go to experts, whether it's a nonprofit like Vermont Slauson,
Correct.
Or the SBA or a paid
That's
consultant.
correct. In the city of Los Angeles, they're called business source centers, and outside of the city of Los Angeles, they're called small business development centers. But they're both excellent places where you can go and get all of the different expertises that your small business could possibly need. I can't speak to the business source center model, but the SBDC model, the SBDC that I work at, College of the Canyons in Valencia, we have lawyers that are advisors, we have accountants that are advisors, we have social media experts that are advisors, government procurement experts that are advisors. All of this expertise under one roof, totally free to all entrepreneurs. And so that was a long-winded way to say it makes absolutely no sense to tap into that level of expertise when you are first thinking about starting your business.
So how do we get there? I'm thinking most black businesses and small businesses don't access it because they don't know about it. But now that we're telling them about it, how do they get that help?
I would imagine, speaking for the College of the Canyons specifically, it's as easy as going to our website and signing up to be a client, which costs absolutely nothing and takes maybe 5 minutes to do. And once you are in the system, you will be paired with whatever expertise and whatever advisors you need to launch your idea and get it to the next level.
You specialize in something called venture feasibility.
Venture feasibility, getting the idea off the couch. When people have a business idea, they need to be able to analyze it and understand it, to understand what it would take to make it an actual operating business.
Right, and whether or not it'll even work. Have you ever gone through that with someone and said, "No, that ain't it. That's not going to work." Most ideas, really.
Most. That's what the feasibility analysis is all about.
It comes out like that. That's not feasible. You either have to come out with another angle or a completely different business model to make this work.
That's an excellent point. All businesses can be successful. Not all businesses can be run the same way. Not all businesses need the same amount of resources. And depending on what type of business you're trying to have, that will determine what it is you're able to do.
Do you do individual consulting where people could say, okay, I've got this business idea, or I have a business that's already running? Can they contact you directly and get that kind of service?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am available not only through the website, crdcla.org, but through my email, ganderson@crdcla.org. Reach out to me and let's make arrangements to get together and figure out how to loosen all of the constraints that might be stopping you from running the business in a effective, productive, and sustainable way.
Often hear a lot of emphasis on this idea of a business plan. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say most of the people that I know that have businesses do not have a business plan.
They have a plan. It's in their head.
Right.
Okay. Everyone needs everyone needs a plan, but you don't need necessarily the 40 or 50 page plan with all the bells and whistles. You just maybe need a roadmap for you to stay on point and not be distracted from all of the things that will come your way after you start the business.
Right. And if I already have a business in place, and I'm again going to go out on a limb, I think this probably applies to a lot of Black-owned food businesses, whether it be an actual restaurant or a caterer or some kind of product that they sell, that they probably could benefit from a restructuring of the way they're doing business.
I think unless you've been to business school, there are certain things that you are doing that could be improved. There's always that opportunity to tighten it up and to make it better and to save money here, to not work as harder here, but work smarter in some area. There's always that.
Right. And
line item by line item.
So, you're talking about this feasibility analysis for people who are starting up, but how do you do that when you're already in motion?
You first analyze where you're at and the performance that is associated with where you at. Is that where you want to be?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then we have to make a concerted, purposeful plan to get to where you want to be, which is identifying some vision, some goal, some objective, and then plotting a course from where you are to where you want to go.
Yeah, I think some of us don't even realize whether or not we're making money. At a certain point, I said, I'm not going to produce people's videos anymore because they're giving me a big check. But when I look at the hours, this is not worth it.
One of the common problems that I don't even want to put it on us. The entrepreneurs across the board, wherever they may be found, suffer from the same problem: selling their nickels for 4 cents each.
Yeah.
And not appreciating the cost structure under which they have to operate.
They're selling the nickel for 4 cents, and they've put in $1 worth of effort to be able to sell that nickel.
Absolutely.
At least that's what I was doing.
Everybody understands. Everybody that goes into business, everybody that ever thought about going into business understands the concept of sell a thing for more than it costs to make it or buy it.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
everybody gets that. But yet most businesses go out of business in the first year. So there's a lot more to it than just meets the eye. And for most people that have not started a business, they were customers of a business, and what met their eye looked simple enough to where they thought they could do it themselves.
Well, I know you came here with a mission, something that you wanted to say, so I'm going to just hand you the mic for these last 2 minutes and say what you came here to say, Gerry Anderson.
Okay. I didn't really come to say anything except that I am available for all things capacity building for individuals, for small businesses, and for community-based organizations. I just received a grant that allows me to help entrepreneurs at no cost for those that need assistance with building capacity, with helping them to understand how to become better, how to do more, and how to sustain more.
And that's a great, great point. So you can help folks right now for free.
Right now for free. And specifically, thank you. I'm looking for 25 guinea pigs that will get a whole lot of stuff for free in exchange for their feedback on the stuff that I gave them.
G. Anderson at crdc.org. G. Anderson at crdc.org. And That capacity building piece is a real stumbling block for a lot of folks, right?
For a
Going
lot of
from
people.
selling a few jars of your lotion to friends to scaling up to being in, not Target, somewhere.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're working on in terms of building capacity is putting a capital access piece for those that are fortunate enough to get contracts and to get business that might be, say, slightly above their heads, where they might have to ramp up and expand facilities, buy some extra materials and things like that in order to service that contract. We help small mom and pop businesses get into position to service big contracts, build their capacity.
And which it's, we're out of time, but that seems like it's really the doorway to building actual wealth.
That's our gateway at this exact moment.
Yeah. Well, Gerry Anderson, it's a pleasure to meet you in person. Thank you for coming in, and thanks for
Likewise.
being part of our KBLA delegation.
Not a problem. Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much.
All right. Phone lines are open. Your phone calls are next on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Tensions flared outside of a Grand Rapids, Michigan courthouse as protesters clashed during jury deliberations in the trial of ex-officer Christopher Shore, charged with killing a black man, Patrick Luoya.
I think that they are really weighing the options and the facts, and I really, truly hope that they come up with something soon.
The jury is deadlocked, but was told to keep trying. One person was arrested. Jurors are in deliberations today in the Tyree Nichols murder trial. 3 former Memphis officers are charged with beating him to death back in 2023. That was caught on video. None of the former officers testified. And a Lending Tree survey shows 77% of parents say raising kids is more expensive than expected, with nearly half having fewer children due to costs. The average cost to raise a child now is nearly $300,000, up 36% in 2 years. A $5,000 baby bonus is reportedly under consideration. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Another date for Lakers Nation to circle on your calendar. August 2nd is the day Luka Doncic becomes eligible to sign a 4-year extension worth $229 million. The Lakers are not obligated to give Doncic an extension. Doncic has 1 year left on his current contract that averages $53.7 million. The Lakers might want to see how Doncic is handling his offseason conditioning program before agreeing to give him an extension. One of the reasons Doncic is with the Lakers is because the Dallas Mavericks did not feel comfortable giving Doncic a super max extension worth $345 million. If Doncic was still with Dallas, he would have been eligible for that deal on August 2nd. Interesting development in the NBA playoffs. The road teams are 5-0 in the second round of the playoffs. Indiana, New York, Denver, and Golden State started their second round series with road wins. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
The Comedy Connection series featuring KBLA's Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady. We're going to transform relationship disasters into stand-up material live at Inglewood's Miracle Theater on May 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My clinical team will disclose all of your dating woes, while the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady, has hand-selected supremely talented comedians to roast all of our tragic relationship choices. I dare you to bring your ex's phone number, because Ray, he's going to text it live, and the crowd will be sourcing emojis. Tickets are moving swiftly, so don't hesitate to grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before I diagnose your dating history as a pre-existing condition.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call
800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so I'm going to be joined next hour by my colleague Jill Monroe, so we can do a deeper dive on this disturbing story about Smokey Robinson. And so we'll talk more about that then. You're welcome to call in about whatever is on your mind. When I say it hurts my heart, it's because I feel like Smokey Robinson is 85 years old, and he is a treasure to our community. I know we have to believe victims. We're told to believe victims. Now we are getting to a point of critical mass where it seems like they're just taking down every single black man with money. That's what it seems. Am I turning into a conspiracy theorist before your eyes? I doubt it. But, yeah, we'll talk more about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, trust and verify. Believe victims, but they still have to be investigated because anyone can say anything. I mean, that's just a fact of life. Anyone can say anything. So I'm going to need some proof. These are anonymous complainants. So I'm going to need some proof on that. I'm going to need some real serious proof. Quick update on some other things. And, of course, you're invited in. As I've said, you're welcome anytime. The India has fired missiles into Pakistan, Pakistani territory. Pakistan calling an act of war. At least 26 people are dead. They've shot down they say they've shot down fighter jets. At least one child dead. India saying it's striking infrastructure. being used by militants. Sounds familiar. We don't pay a lot of attention, at least I don't, to India and Pakistan. But what I do know is both have nuclear weapons. And they're right next to each other. They're two countries that are right next to each other. So when they start bombing each other, this right here is not a good sign. And I'm hoping that it can de-escalate. The United States says it's going to stop bombing Yemen's Houthi group. They've been doing so for at least a couple of months. He said that before the meeting with the Prime Minister, the President did, and reiterated it afterwards. He says that it's a quid pro quo. Houthis are going to stop attacking American ships, and the U.S. will stop bombing them. He said there's no written deal, but he called it a handshake deal. Of course, you're shaking hands with a guy who is constantly lying, but hopefully the bombing stops. Finally, the administration, the current Republican administration, top trade officials are going to meet with Chinese trade officials this week, talk about how we can get rid of this trade war, how we can ramp it down. And it's, again, these are these maybe countries and boring conversations that we don't track, except for that in this case, how much it costs you to do anything is hanging in the balance. I don't know if you've started reading labels since the trade war. The amount of stuff that's made in China is insane. Not the least of which your iPhone, right? And prices are already up. We've got 145% tariff on almost everything from China. They've put 125% tariff on some of our stuff, which I don't even know what we export to them. And we've been warned, as the president has, by major retailers that we're going to start seeing some empty shelves. Some products will not be available because of these tariffs. What we could end up is, double the price or don't stock the item. And so some businesses are going to not stock the item. But hopefully we'll see another back down. Our president likes to talk big game and then say, see, I scared them. Now I don't really have to do it. Meanwhile, Wall Street is in shambles. Our relations with other nations are ruined or dampened. And here comes another tariff, just when you thought you had heard the last of the tariffs. They are talking about a tariff on pharmaceutical products. Medicines, in other words. They were exempt from the first round of tariffs, but now he's saying he wants to put a major tariffs on medicines very shortly. I'm not at one with Big Pharma. I would rather we use herbs than pharmaceutical medications if we can. That said, if you need insulin or you need a medication because you have to have it to keep your disease at bay or to keep you alive, we shouldn't be playing games with that. And they said in the next month or two, we're talking about a major tariff. They're claiming this is going to make the pharmaceutical companies leave countries like India and China and come fleeing back to the United States. First of all, that would take a while. It wouldn't happen overnight, so you'd be looking at years of paying higher prices for those meds. But second of all, it's probably not going to happen. I didn't realize that the majority of brand name drugs are imported. And some drugs that we think of as generic, the less expensive version of another medicine, they have key ingredients in them that are actually from China or other countries. We already pay more than anyone else in the world as far as developed nations for drugs, 2 to 3 times as much. And the president cannot force Big Pharma to relocate their factories here. So we're going to be looking at drug shortages and rising costs. And we're already in a situation where there are many older Americans who have to choose between buying groceries and buying their meds. So another terrible idea from this new Confederate Trump administration. Protesters pushing back in South Memphis because Elon Musk has created this giant AI data center right next to the Black community there in Memphis. And they're operating out of compliance with the regulatory rules of environmental considerations. It's got 35 methane gas turbines to power this supercomputer. And according to Politico.com, none of those turbines have the controls, the pollution controls that are required by the federal government. Why do you suppose the richest man in the world thinks he can get away with just ignoring government regulations around emissions? The company apparently has no clean air permits. Why do you think Elon Musk believes he's that untouchable that he can operate a whole huge AI data center with no clean air permits? And now an analysis done by E&E News, which was advocated for by environmental groups, shows that his AI plant, it's called XAI, is now one of the biggest emitters of smog and nitrous oxide in Shelby County. And of course, it's right next to this major black hub. So activists are pushing back, and the battle lines are being drawn with XAI. Town hall meetings being held, a big one on April 25th, another one upcoming. They are pushing back, calling for XAI to meet the standards that are imposed on other companies. So we shall see. Lots for Elon Musk to tend to outside of Doge right now. These days, the businesses seem to be crumbling and under attack on all fronts. 800-920-1580 if you want to get into the conversation. As always, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Dominique DiPrima, and this is KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like stress.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You do, and we're glad you're here, and you're always invited into the conversation, either on YouTube, youtube.com, KBLA 1580, or on the phone at 800-920-1580. I am laughing because y'all are in conversation in these comments all the time, and I love it. And I just want to remind you also that I am going to be emceeing all day on Saturday for a concert, which is free. It's a Mother's Day concert. You're invited in. Bring your mommy. Everybody can come, not just mamas. Rasan Patterson, Leela James, 1500 or nothing. And, of course, DJ D Nice and others, along with the Fernando Pullum Youth Orchestra. It's not an orchestra. They're a band. It's incredible. Young people playing jazz and doing their thing. It's going to be a good time. It's at the Michelle and Barack Obama Sports Complex in Los Angeles. You have to register. You go to ilovemom.eventbrite.com, and you can register for free tickets. And I'll be there all day, so look forward to hanging out with you there on the day before Mother's Day Eve. And, of course, you know we've been giving away tickets to the Four Queens, which is the actual day of Mother's Day. But you're going to have to tune into my colleague Jill Monroe or my colleague Zoe Williams, because I already gave mine out for today. I will have more, though, for you tomorrow as well. Meanwhile, in Rome, they're picking a pope, and this is a whole big deal. I mean, obviously it's the pope, but there are cardinals that gather from all over the world, and they have all these meetings, and they argue it out, and then they go in and they have what they call a conclave, and I haven't seen any of the conclave movies, but I'm just reading about it, and they all go through this process of finding consensus. But what was fascinating to me about it, I'm not a Catholic, neither is Trump, even though he wants to be Pope. I'm not a Catholic, and I don't really study this, but what's interesting to me is this is a very ancient, conservative, religious organization, and they have some of the same issues that political organizations have. Al Jazeera is reporting, for example, that one of the big points of tension between these cardinals is that the global South is tired of Europe running everything when it comes to popes. They want to be more included, whether it be Africa or Latin America or whatever. And of course, we know Pope Francis was the first Latin American pope, but still Argentina, which is the most European of the Latin American nations. And so this is an argument back and forth. And then this Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who's one of the people they're saying is a front runner. Well, who knows what's a front runner with a bunch of cardinals. But anyway, he is the Secretary of State of the Vatican and was subject to a smear campaign by right-wing U.S. Catholic social media accounts saying that he's not healthy. He's 70. And that he wouldn't be a good choice because he's not healthy. Now the Vatican has to push back, and they may end up having to show health records or whatever. It's so interesting. There's this other guy, Luis Antonio Tagle, and he is Asian, apparently. He's Filipino. The first Filipino pope would be amazing. Apparently fairly progressive. 67, which is young in pope years. But once again, you've got U.S. conservative social media targeting this guy with a hit job because they think he's too liberal. And they're accusing him of heresy because he sung a John Lennon song. The song is Imagine. And the song has a line that says, Imagine there's no heaven, no religion too. I mean, that, I know you're running for Pope. You probably have to be pristine. But I sing all kinds of things that aren't the gospel of my life. I try not to. But sometimes, it's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. I guess that would be disqualifying if you were Pope. But my point is, the song comes on, you sing it. It doesn't mean it's the doctrine of your life. And it's so interesting. It's Italian conservative and U.S. that are targeting this dude. And that is the dynamic of the world we're in right now. Even if you're in the papal conclave with nothing but cardinals, you still got to dodge social media hit jobs from conservatives. That shows you where we are. Not only how the right and the disinformation, misinformation cartels have taken over social media, but also how influential it is. We're talking about cardinals from all over the world, right? From more than 70 countries. These cardinals that are a bunch of old dudes, mostly white, but they're from other places too. And they are in the Vatican in the deepest secrecy, and yet they're being influenced in who they pick for Pope because of some right-wing social media influencer in the U.S. Make it make sense. It's very instructive. I guess it means that, we're not the only ones that have that problem. That's a whole thing, right? If the Pope has to deal with social media hit jobs, of course Miles Lowe and Dominique DiPrima do. Of course KBLA does. Of course Kamala Harris does. Yeah. It's hilarious to me that the Prime Minister of Canada has to tell our president that Canada's not for sale. But apparently they had a fairly chummy meeting. Advice to Mark Carney, don't let Melania smile in your face, and you'll have a much better relationship with our president. Don't be playa like Justin Trudeau. Well, it really wasn't his fault. She was kind of throwing it at him. The U.S. Supreme Court has decided that the Trump administration and the new conservative Confederate Republican Party can ban transgender people from serving in the U.S. military. That was blocked by the lower courts. U.S. Supreme Court said, go for it. Discrimination is now legal. They didn't give their rulings. It was just a brief decision. And this is maybe because it's what they call an emergency application. Of course, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Brown dissented. They also didn't write up an argument, though. And this is going to have, believe it or not, even though transgender people are a tiny, tiny percentage of our population, which has been weaponized to scare people into voting, not voting. The fact is that, believe it or not, there are quite a few transgender people serving in the military and doing important jobs. And I've seen and read plenty of active military saying this is going to be a problem. It's 4,200 current service members, 0.2%, which is a tiny fraction, but apparently some of that tiny fraction is in the hands of transgender folks who have special skill sets. it's going to have an impact. And it is part of this hyper move towards weaponizing transgender folks. Next month, or I guess maybe this month, the Supreme Court will decide whether the Tennessee law that bans transition treatments for trans young people stands. That was a case that was brought by the Biden administration, but of course now the Trump administration is there, and they're taking the exact opposite position that the Biden administration was taking. And this is part of a concerted effort, which I guess you could call them campaign promises kept, to take away rights from people that already have them, transgender individuals, and to scapegoat these folks as some kind of pariahs that impact a much greater society in ways that couldn't possibly be true given their numbers in the population. My. The Mexican president says no thank you to Trump sending troops across the border. No, thank you. We don't want to be occupied by the U.S. Army. Thanks for asking, though, and have a nice day. So far, President Sheinbaum has been doing a really good, Claudia's her name, has been doing a really good job of keeping Trump happy and at bay, but this could lead to a more serious conflict with our other neighbor. You know, Canada, they used to be our friends. Mexico, yeah, we're surrounded. 800-920-1580. My colleague Jill Monroe is going to join me next. We'll talk about Smokey Robinson, maybe some Diddy, as that trial unfolds, and more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Tensions flared outside of a Grand Rapids, Michigan courthouse as protesters clashed during jury deliberations in the trial of ex-officer Christopher Shore, charged with killing a black man, Patrick Luoya.
I think that they are really weighing the options and the facts, and I really, truly hope that they come up with something soon.
The jury is deadlocked, but was told to keep trying. One person was arrested. Jurors are in deliberations today in the Tyree Nichols murder trial. 3 former Memphis officers are charged with beating him to death back in 2023. That was caught on video. None of the former officers testified. And a Lending Tree survey shows 77% of parents say raising kids is more expensive than expected, with nearly half having fewer children due to costs. The average cost to raise a child now is nearly $300,000, up 36% in 2 years. A $5,000 baby bonus is reportedly under consideration. Get BIN News Now, on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.